You mentioned before that when it started for you, you were posting a lot about the business or the company that you were working for. Then you transitioned into making it much more personal, and that's where you saw the big uplift in followers. How do you decide on the personal stories that you're comfortable sharing, considering there's the anxiety there as well, and probably some other factors that your private life is your private life. You don't want to put it up everything for public consumption.
Yeah, I think for me it was, what do I want to be known for? What impact do I want to have? And what do I feel comfortable with if my boss were to read this, or my parents, or anyone? And so I'm not going to be sharing about my sex life. We're not going to be talking about periods for me personally, although there are people that talk about that, and I love that.
That is true. Yeah.
For me, I wanted to inspire others to feel part of something. Growing up, I was, bullied in primary school for being different, having a different last name. I felt lonely and isolated. And so for me, I wanted to share with others, you have a space here. You're welcomed, you're heard. It doesn't matter what you look like, what your name is, what language you speak. It doesn't matter what your job is. So for me, that's part of that sort of talking about bullying side of things. When it comes to mental health, this is a really interesting one, because when I first started posting content, I didn't want to talk at all about my anxiety, seeing a therapist, because I thought, it makes me look weak. It's not professional. And I realized, cool, if I want to be my full authentic self, which is something I want to be known for, I have to be a little bit more open and raw. And the reality was, I was posting 5 times a week. I was running a podcast. I was working full time. I was burnt out to a crisp, like so crispy, it's not even funny. And so I thought, okay, I can't be the only person that felt like this. And I've had posts in the past where I've shared things that other people have essentially gone through. Why don't I talk about this? And it was about 6 months into when I first started posting, and I shared it, and it performed really well in the sense of people really resonated with it. And I thought, okay, this feels like a space where not many people talk about it. It's quite a taboo subject, unfortunately, even up until today. So why don't I start talking about it? And I guess that's when my journey started, with sharing my anxiety and my journey with therapy. And I was lucky enough to work with a therapy app called Life Support as a brand deal, essentially, as a brand ambassador, and be able to spread the message of, hey, there's no shame in speaking to a therapist. And I guess that's where that personal side really opened up, when I saw that people needed that. They needed someone to essentially be like, hey, I also struggle with this. It's okay. And for me, I've had friends and people in my life that I've lost to suicide, unfortunately. And I thought, okay, if I can start conversations to save lives, let's do that. And, I could talk about this for absolute weeks and days on end. But for me, it's about, how can I impact someone else's life? How could I maybe help them, encourage to check in on a work colleague or to see a therapist? And it was something I struggled with growing up, not realizing I struggled with anxiety and depression. And I felt so much shame about seeing a therapist to first start, because I thought, I should be strong and independent and handle it myself. And I went through that myself. And now I want to use my story to help others to be like, you know what? There is no shame in being on meds or seeing a therapist or whatever it is that you need, or talking to your work friend. There's no shame in that. So it's all about breaking down those stereotypes.
Without naming names, what's some of the feedback you've got around sharing those stories?
I think I've had maybe one comment that has been like, shut up, no one cares. 99% of the feedback or the comments or the DMs I get are, wow, thank you. Oh, I hope you're doing okay. Wow, take the time you need to recover from burnout. Or you're like, this really helped me. I didn't realize I was struggling. And it's just been overwhelmingly positive. And I feel very fortunate that I don't know, maybe I'm on the right side of LinkedIn. LinkedIn is an overwhelmingly positive community. It's been really supportive and encouraging. And I've definitely had posts in the past that have landed on the wrong side, or have not necessarily been reciprocated very well, and have handled my fair share of hate comments and trolls. But most of them are not on posts that are about anxiety or mental health. And I feel very excited and positive about the community and about the overall conversation of mental health, that it is changing and evolving. And this stigma of, if you're struggling with mental health, you should stay quiet, that's changing. And I'm so excited by that.
LinkedIn, as with any other social media profile, allows you to put up static posts, image-based. There's polls in there as well for stuff for LinkedIn, videos, podcasts. There's any number of things. How do you decide what post needs to be created for a particular medium?
Yeah, so I think it's sort of probably two elements to it. One is, what do you feel comfortable creating? What do you have time to edit or review or create? So for some people, they have no idea how to edit a video. Probably wouldn't recommend filming video. Some people really struggle with long form written content. Maybe English isn't their first language. Maybe they don't enjoy writing. Maybe they're dyslexic or something. There's a lot of factors. Some people just get bored. You never know. So I wouldn't recommend writing a long form article or even a long form post. So first is work to your strengths, work out what you love doing. What could you do for 100 days straight if you had to make 100 days of content? What could you do for 12 months? If you look at video and you're like, oh, I don't think I could, video's not for you. The second thing that I look at is, if we're specifically looking at the platform LinkedIn, what are your audience really like? What's working on the platform? What's going to be cut through? So in some instances, if you really want to stand out, it's go for a kind of content that maybe you're not seeing a lot in the feed. So at the moment, there's a lot of carousels and static. So maybe it's a video post. The other side is, you could even poll your audience. What do they like? Is it they want really quick, snappy stuff? Do they like visuals? Do they really want to see your face and everything? If that's the case, do photos and accompanying text post. It's understanding, what did they want? What can you give them that's going to be that reciprocal sort of two-way conversation? So it's, yeah, what works to your strengths? What do you have time to write, edit, review that you could do consistently? And then what do you feel like is what your audience are going to love? And I think the biggest thing is, you don't have to get stuck and bogged down into one kind of content. For me, I've found that static with like a text post with an image works best for me. It's what it works in my schedule. And it's what I really enjoy posting. For some people, they only do video, and I absolutely love that. They become known for video. But you can try different things. I've tried polls, I've tried videos, I've done carousels, I've done static, and I just mix it up to see, what do I enjoy making? What performs well? Because I guess part of it is metrics, part of it is wanting to reach a broad audience. But then also, are people going to watch your video, or are people going to read your long post? If they are, lean into that for a little bit, but mix it up and see what sticks.
How long did it take you to get to a point where you had the data to work out which posts and which medium perform best for you?
Oh, that's such a good question. I don't even think I have a specific time frame, because part of it is understanding, for me at least, I like to understand how the algorithm works, and I do lean into that, in all honesty. I know for some people, they're like, I'll just post whatever, which I do support. But for my strategy, I do sort of go with the flow and see what trial. So for when I first started, I was doing just video posts, and I did that for a couple of months. And then I realized after maybe 6 months that video views were down, it wasn't reaching as many people, and it wasn't worth the effort of filming a 2-3 minute video. So then I lean into static and image sort of posts. And I've stayed with that for probably a year and a half, because I do often see consistent, similar results in terms of reach, views, engagement, number of comments, things like that. And when I'm looking at the stats and the metrics, and then you just sort of come to learn, maybe, a couple of weeks on the platform, you'll start seeing a lot of polls or a lot of carousels, and you'll start noticing the trends. But that does often take a couple of weeks to pick up on or to see. But in terms of understanding the metrics on your own content and what is working, I would give it at least a month of consistently trying. And that would be probably a minimum of, say, 2 posts per week on that. I feel like measuring just 4 posts or like just 1 a week is not enough. I think you need to be really going at it for like 1 to 3 months to really see, does this work? Have you tried a different hook? Have you tried a different length of text or a different length of video? Have you tried different visuals or stuff? Like when you're mixing in a few variables here and there of that same kind of content, then you can start to pick up, is this working? Is it not working?
You've clearly put in the work to understand LinkedIn's algorithm. How did you upskill yourself? What resources did you rely on in order to get to a point where you knew what was going to work?
Honestly, a lot of it was just being on the platform. I think there's only so much you can learn from a short course or a video or going to webinars. I did all of those. I've been to talks. I've done LinkedIn courses on LinkedIn. I've got LinkedIn Learning. I've done, short courses online, but most of it has just come from trialing and erroring myself and seeing what other people are doing, having conversations with other creators on the platform. I think that was a really eye-opening one for me. It's just spitballing ideas over like a virtual chat of, hey, I've been trying out this, I'm really struggling. And they're like, oh, I've tried this. Or you just get that different perspective from someone that gets it, that's in that sort of content or LinkedIn world. And the biggest upskilling for me was just trying, practicing, and doing it more and more and more. It was posting more, it was commenting more, it was having those conversations. And I think if you're wanting to learning more the technical basics, I would definitely look at, you can find free videos on YouTube so easily. There are podcasts out there that talk about it. There are books now that are pretty affordable. I think Leah Turner, who's a LinkedIn pro, has just released a book for, I think, like 20 Australian dollars, maybe 30. It's pretty cheap. You can find stuff like that. People have free, even sort of like one-page downloadables of, how to set up your LinkedIn profile, how to, even just the basics of content. And so I've started looking for those when I was first starting out as well, just looking at those bigger creators that then have links on their platforms and just seeing what they're doing and then start replicating.
Your content is clearly geared towards helping others, which is fantastic. But what I'd like to get a sense of is, what has building your personal brand given you?
Ooh. Oh God, that's honestly one of my favorite questions to answer. I think the first is a community that actually give a shit about what I have to say. There's a priceless thing I could not wish for more. I'm so grateful for those people because I feel like it's my safe space. I feel excited when I get to have those conversations. For example, when I first came back to LinkedIn at the beginning of this year, I took about a 3-week hiatus. I posted and I was genuinely excited when I saw my regulars in the comments be like, oh my God, you're back. And I was like, yeah, I missed you. And that is just like pure, genuine happiness to me. I think the opportunities that come from it, though, have been insane. I mean, the current job that I have full-time now, I think the skills that I've learned from LinkedIn helped me land that job. I've been able to give talks at companies. I've been able to be a keynote speaker. That would not happen if I hadn't pushed myself out there and people had seen me. The person that invited me to a keynote talk, to be a keynote speaker, we found each other on LinkedIn. That literally wouldn't have happened anywhere else. And it's the knowledge that I've gained as well. So it's being able to now share my knowledge and my passion with others because I've put myself out there. People have seen me, or people see that I show up consistently and I guess it works. And I talk about stuff that I'm passionate about and excited about. And that's been those external opportunities of being able to present or talk or have land clients to help them start building their own personal brand has all come because of LinkedIn. And I see a lot of other people who have been able to change careers or to launch their own company. And, there's so many huge things. Like I've got a friend, Taz, who has released his online course. He's now got a creators community he's launched as well. And that only happened because he built his personal brand, because he built an audience of, I think, 60,000, because he showed up. And it's just like, I love LinkedIn. It's so exciting. And I'm very, very lucky to have the community I do and the opportunities I do as well, because I was like, screw it, let's just go for it. And now I get invited on stuff like this, Luke, like being on a podcast or...
Well, just a humble little thing that we're doing, you mean?
I love it. I'm so here for it. I was being very excited to film this. And I'm like, someone wants to invite me to talk about something. Wow. Cute. Like I'm always shook every single time. I'm like, why do you want to talk to me? Like, I'm just a little Melbourne girly. Like, I don't have anything to offer.
You got plenty to offer, Rosie, and you are absolutely killing it in the social space. So thank you very much for sitting down with me and allowing me to mine all your expertise, because you got plenty of it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Like I said, I could talk about this for hours, so I feel very honoured to be here, and it's been an awesome conversation.